What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. In today's video we are comparing one of the latest mid-range devices from Vivo, the Vivo V27 Pro, to one of the latest mid-range devices from Xiaomi, the Redmi Note 12 Pro. Now out of the two devices, the Vivo V27 Pro is about $50 more expensive than the Redmi Note 12 Pro. So is it worth spending the extra $50 to buy the Vivo over the Redmi Note 12 Pro? Well, we are definitely gonna find out in today's video. Now, I've also included a super short camera comparison between these two devices, and that one starts at this minute of this video. Alright, before we go any further, let's check out the boxes and see what comes in the box with each device. Alright, so both devices have pretty large boxes, and inside the boxes you're gonna find a clear case for each device. We also have some booklets in there, we have a USB-C cable in there, and then with the Redmi Note 12 Pro you're gonna find a 67 watt fast charger, with the Vivo V27 Pro you're gonna find a 66 watt fast charger. Now the Redmi 12 Pro has a 5000 mAh battery inside, where the Vivo V27 Pro has a 4600 mAh battery. So charging the Vivo from 0 to 100 is done in about 50 to 52 minutes, where the Redmi Note 12 Pro takes about 55 to 60 minutes to fully charge. So really not that big of a difference for charging performance. Neither device supports wireless charging, so only wired charging. Now the battery life on the Redmi Note 12 Pro is better than the battery life that you're gonna get on the Vivo V27 Pro, mostly because we have that larger battery and the CPU that's not as powerful, but we'll talk about that shortly. Taking a look at both devices and starting with the screens. So the screen on the Vivo V27 Pro is a 6.78 inches AMOLED screen that has a 1080p resolution and a refresh rate of 120 Hz, where the screen on the Redmi Note 12 Pro is a 6.67 inches AMOLED screen that has a 1080p resolution and a refresh rate of 120 Hz. Now, of course, the screen on the Vivo has curved edges, where the screen on the Redmi has a flat screen. So personally, I do prefer the flatter screen that we get on the Redmi Note 12 Pro. I feel that curved edges these days, well, we are kind of past that. Now, the biggest difference that I've noticed in between these two devices is when you take the phones outside. So the peak brightness on the screen of the Redmi Note 12 Pro is about 900 nits, where the peak brightness on the screen of the Vivo V27 Pro is about 680 nits. So you will be able to see the Redmi device much better if you take the phones outside. And for me that's very important because, well, you have to look at the phone when you're outside. So the Redmi device does get the better screen, even though it is the more affordable device out of the two. Both devices have a similar camera cutout, but the sensor on the Vivo V27 Pro is a 50 megapixel sensor, where the sensor that we have on the Redmi device is a 16 megapixel sensor. Now, these are some example pictures that I took earlier today, just so you can see how both devices take selfies. And yes, the Vivo V27 Pro does better for selfies. Now, with the front-facing camera on the Vivo, you can also record in 4K at 30 frames per second, where the maximum recording resolution for the Redmi device is 1080p at 60 frames per second. So next I'm going to show you a quick recording that I've done with the front-facing cameras, just so you can see how the video quality you get from both devices. Okay, and we are moving on to a quick recording done with the front-facing cameras on both devices. So the maximum recording resolution on the Redmi Note 12 Pro with the front-facing camera is 1080p at 30 frames per second, but it does seem that the video is got some stabilization going. The maximum recording resolution on the Vivo V27 Pro for that front-facing camera is 4K at 30 frames per second, but it doesn't seem that we get any video stabilization at any resolution, so 4K or 1080p. So the video will not be as steady on the V27 Pro with the front-facing camera. Another difference between these two devices has to do with the fingerprint scanner. So on the Vivo V27 Pro, the fingerprint scanner is under the screen, where the fingerprint scanner on the Redmi device is built in the power button. So that's how it unlocks on the Vivo, and that's how it unlocks on the Redmi device. So about the same speed, I'm gonna say, even though I do prefer the built-in the power button fingerprint scanner that we have on the Redmi device. As for the always-on display, well, the Vivo V27 Pro can keep the display on at all times, where the Redmi device will turn off the always-on display after a few seconds. So I do prefer the always-on display on the Vivo V27 Pro. Now, moving at the frames here. So the frames on both devices are made out of plastic. Now, they both kind of feel the same, I'm gonna say. None of them is more premium than the other, I'm gonna say. But if you look at the top there, you're gonna notice that on the Redmi Note 12 Pro, we get a 3.5mm audio jack, something that we don't get on the Vivo device. And we also have the second speaker. So on the Redmi device, we get a speaker at the top and another speaker at the bottom. On the Vivo device, we only get one speaker at the bottom. And next I'm gonna play a short recording just so you can hear how the speakers on the Redmi Note 12 Pro sound compared to the speaker that we have on the Vivo V27 Pro. But of course, the speakers on the Redmi device are better. And moving at the bottom of both devices can take two SIM cards, but neither device can take an SD card. We have the same hole for the microphone, we have the USB-C charging port and the hole for that speaker. The speeds for that USB-C port are the same on both devices. Turning both devices around, well, their backs are made out of glass. However, I do prefer the way the Vivo V27 Pro looks compared to the Redmi device. Not to mention the Redmi device is a fingerprint magnet where you can't really see fingerprints on the back of the Vivo. Now for cameras, they both have a 8 megapixel ultra-wide camera and then we have a 2 megapixel macro camera. The main camera is a 50 megapixel sensor on both devices and it has optical image stabilization on both devices. So pretty cool for mid-range devices, I'm gonna say. Now, with the Vivo V27 Pro, you can record videos in 4K at 30 frames per second, and you also get video stabilization, electronic video stabilization, where on the Redmi Note 12 Pro, we don't get electronic video stabilization for 4K recording. So only if you are recording in 1080p at 30 frames per second on the Redmi device. So I kind of wish we would have had video stabilization for 4K recordings on the Redmi device as well. And I guess next I'm going to show you a couple of sample videos just so you can see how the video quality is between these two devices. Alright, we have a quick video test between the Xiaomi Redmi Note 12 Pro and of course the Vivo V27 Pro. So for this recording I'm doing 4K at 30 frames per second with the main cameras on the back of the two devices. Now, even though the main cameras on both devices have optical image stabilization, only the Vivo V27 Pro has electronic image stabilization as well. So of course, if you're walking, if you're moving, the video will be steadier from the V27 Pro when compared to the video that you're gonna be getting from the Redmi Note 12 Pro. So yeah, this is how recording in 4K at 30 frames per second with the main cameras on the back of the two devices would look like. Okay, and next we are moving on to another quick recording done with the main cameras on the back of the two devices. Now I've switched the resolution to 1080p at 30 frames per second on both devices. And at this resolution, the Redmi Note 12 Pro does have video stabilization. So now we have video stabilization on both devices. I'm gonna stop here. We're gonna pan left slowly. And I guess we'll walk this way once again. So this is how recording done in 1080p at 30 frames per second with both devices would look like. As for pictures taken with the main cameras, I guess it really depends how you like your pictures. So if you like your pictures to have more saturated colors, the pictures do look more vibrant, well, you will prefer the pictures from the Xiaomi Redmi Note 12 Pro because all the colors are a bit more saturated, the pictures do look a bit more vivid. Now, what you're gonna get with the VIVO V27 Pro are pictures that look closer to reality. So pictures that I was seeing, well, the objects that I was seeing with my own eyes. So the VIVO V27 Pro does retain the original colors better. That's what I'm trying to say. So I feel that a lot of people will still prefer the pictures from the Redmi device just because of that more vibrant look. But definitely leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Which pictures do you prefer? The ones from the Vivo or the ones from the Redmi device? Alright, and next we are moving on to performance, and I guess this is where you're gonna find the biggest difference between these two devices. So if we open settings here and about phone and detailed info, so on the VIVO V27 Pro we have the MediaTek Dimensity 8200 that's paired with 8 gigs of RAM. Both devices have 128 gigs of internal storage. On the Redmi Note 12 Pro, you're gonna find the MediaTek Dimensity 1080 and again 8 gigs of RAM. The Redmi device is also running Android 12, where the Vivo device is running Android 13. And if we open the Antutu benchmark on both devices, you're gonna see a really big difference here. So the score that you're gonna get on the Vivo device is twice higher than the score that you're gonna get on the Redmi device. If we open this, you can see in more detail. Now, I've also noticed that whenever you're doing anything on the Vivo V27 Pro, it does get much hotter than the Redmi device. So if you're playing a game, after about half an hour, the Vivo device is literally burning. You can also see that in the Antutu benchmark test here. So while running that test, the Vivo device got 11.9 degrees hotter, where the Redmi device got about 5.7 degrees hotter for the same test. So yes, overheating will be a thing on the Vivo device. And if we go to storage test here, you can also see that the internal storage on the Vivo device is much faster than the internal storage that we have on the Redmi device. So performance-wise, there is really no comparison. The Vivo V27 Pro is the much faster device, but also the one that gets really hot. So to quickly conclude this video, if you're looking for the more powerful device, well, the Vivo V27 Pro is much more powerful than the Redmi Note 12 Pro. There is really no comparison. These two devices are not even in the same class. I also like the fact that the 4K video recordings have video stabilization, something that we don't get on the Redmi device. We only get video stabilization for 1080p recordings. So for that, the Vivo is also better. For everything else, the Redmi Note 12 Pro is the better device. First of all, we have a somewhat larger battery inside, since the chipset is not as powerful as the one that we have inside the V27 Pro. You're also gonna get much better battery life. The screen is a flat screen, and I do prefer a flat screen. Not to mention the screen gets way brighter, so you can see the phone better outdoors. And we also have dual speakers on this device, plus NFC. With the Vivo V27 Pro, we don't even get an NFC chip inside it. So you're gonna be able to make payments with the Redmi device, but not with the Vivo V27 Pro. So for being the cheaper device, I feel that the Redmi Note 12 Pro is the better device out of the two, even though it is not as powerful as the Vivo device. What do you guys think about these two devices? Definitely leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.